Now listen closely. If you want to keep an avoidant, you must understand one truth that most people never grasp. They are not afraid of love. They are afraid of losing themselves inside love. And here's where most people fail. They try to soothe. They try to reassure. They try to prove they're safe. But safety without strength creates boredom. And boredom is death to connection. An avoidant is wired to respect self, leadership. They lean in when they feel grounded energy, certainty, direction. They pull away when they feel pressure, dependency, emotional chaos. So if you want to keep them, you don't shrink. You rise. You challenge them, not with anger, not with manipulation, but with presence, with standards, with clarity, with a life so full of purpose that they don't feel trapped, they feel invited. Here's the divine principle: energy follows identity. When you know who you are, when you walk in alignment with your values, when your soul is anchored in purpose, you no longer chase connection. You attract it. An avoidant doesn't stay because you need them. They stay because being with you calls them higher. You challenge them by saying, without words, I choose you, but I don't abandon myself for you. That statement alone rewires the dynamic, because deep down, avoidants are testing one question: will you lose yourself for me, or will you stand strong enough to hold me? Strength is safety. Boundaries are love. Direction is intimacy. When you challenge an avoidant, you are not pushing them away. You are giving them something rare, a relationship that doesn't consume but elevates. And here's the miracle: when you stop trying to keep them and start becoming your highest self, something shifts. They feel the space. They feel the certainty. They feel the invitation to grow. You don't keep an avoidant by holding tighter. You keep them by standing taller, because real love doesn't beg. Real love builds. And when love is rooted in purpose, it doesn't chase, it leads. Avoidants are often misunderstood because people assume they want the same emotional medicine everyone else wants. They don't. What soothes one person can suffocate another. An avoidant nervous system is not calmed by constant reassurance, emotional intensity, or repeated verbal affirmations of closeness. In fact, those things can trigger the very withdrawal that confuses and frustrates their partners. What an avoidant responds to is growth, challenge, and a deep respect for autonomy, because autonomy is the language through which they experience safety. At their core, avoidants associate closeness with loss of self. Somewhere in their emotional history, intimacy became linked to pressure, control, or emotional overload. So when someone approaches them with excessive emotional caretaking, it doesn't register as love. It registers as a threat, not because the love is wrong, but because it arrives without structure, strength, or direction. Comfort alone feels unpredictable. Growth feels grounding. Challenge gives an avoidant something solid to stand on. When you challenge them, you are not attacking or criticizing. You are inviting them into a higher level of consciousness. You are signaling that this connection has direction, momentum, and purpose. That steadiness allows their nervous system to relax because it no longer feels responsible for managing emotional chaos. Instead of drowning in feelings, they are orienting toward progress. Respect for autonomy is equally critical. Avoidants don't want to be pulled closer. They want to choose closeness. When you honor their independence, their pace, and their individuality, you remove the fear of being consumed. Ironically, this is what allows intimacy to grow. Freedom becomes the foundation upon which connection is built. Without autonomy, closeness feels like captivity. With it, closeness feels like power. Growth-focused energy also speaks to the avoidant's inner drive. Many avoidants are deeply self-reliant, disciplined, and oriented toward achievement. They respect strength because strength feels familiar. When you live a life of purpose, when you evolve, set standards, and pursue meaning beyond the relationship, you mirror the internal world they already trust. That mirroring creates resonance. Resonance creates attraction. Comfort maintains what already exists. Challenge creates movement, and avoidants are far more likely to stay engaged in a dynamic that evolves than one that stagnates. When you challenge an avoidant to communicate better, to show up with integrity, to stretch emotionally without forcing or shaming, you activate their respect. Respect is the gateway to attachment for an avoidant. Without respect, reassurance falls flat. This is not about playing games or withholding love. It's about embodying emotional leadership. When your presence says, I am whole, grounded, and growing with or without you, the avoidant feels safe enough to step closer, not because they are chased, but because they are inspired. Growth gives them direction. Autonomy gives them air. Challenge gives them purpose. And in that combination, something powerful happens. Closeness stops feeling dangerous and starts feeling chosen. Comfort is seductive. It lulls us into a sense of safety, predictability, and ease. We all crave it, and in most relationships, it becomes the foundation we lean on. But with avoidance, comfort alone is a double-edged sword. It doesn't create connection, it maintains distance. It doesn't spark engagement, it breeds disengagement. For an avoidant, comfort without challenge becomes invisible, ordinary, or even boring. They don't leave because you're too safe. They leave because safety without tension lacks the magnetic force that keeps them present. Avoidants are wired for polarity. Polarity is the energetic difference between two people, the tension and pull created when someone is fully themselves, strong, purposeful, and alive against another who is fully themselves as well. It's this polarity that sparks desire, keeps attention, and maintains attraction. When everything feels safe, predictable, and comfortable, polarity fades. The avoidant feels no gravitational pull. There is no spark of energy compelling them to stay because energy follows difference, not sameness. This is why comfort, when offered without challenge, can feel like a gentle trap. You may think you are providing reassurance or support, but for an avoidant, it can signal that there is no standard to meet, no growth to pursue, and no momentum in the relationship. They are not drawn to ease. They are drawn to someone who has gravity, someone who is alive in their own right, someone whose life creates an invitation rather than a cage. Comfort keeps them at arm's length because it fails to stimulate their need for respect, engagement, and energetic attraction. Challenge, on the other hand, creates movement. Challenge is not criticism or aggression. It's the act of living fully, setting boundaries, and calling forth the best in each other. It is saying, I respect myself enough to have standards, and I respect you enough to invite you to rise. When you challenge an avoidant in this way, you create polarity, the tension that they need to engage. Suddenly, the relationship is no longer just a predictable safe zone. It is dynamic, alive, and compelling. There is energy flowing between two autonomous people, and that energy becomes magnetic. Think of it like gravity. Comfort is a flat, calm surface. You can lie on it, but there is no pull. Challenge is like a cliff with depth and movement. It creates a gravitational field that draws attention, focus, and presence. Avoidants are naturally drawn to this kind of energy because it doesn't threaten their autonomy. It respects it. It is the space in which they can show up fully, engage voluntarily, and feel the attraction that keeps them coming back. When you understand this, your approach to relationships shifts. You stop trying to be nice for the sake of comfort. You stop chasing them with reassurance. You start living fully, holding your standards, and allowing the relationship to be a space of challenge, growth, and magnetic energy. In doing so, you stop maintaining distance unintentionally and start creating the dynamic that keeps an avoidant emotionally present, interested, and deeply connected. Comfort alone maintains distance, but challenge creates connection. Comfort is static, challenge is alive. And in that aliveness lies the secret to keeping someone who naturally leans away from closeness. They don't stay because it's easy. They stay because it feels electric. When it comes to avoidance, the conventional notion of safety doesn't apply in the way most people think. Many believe that keeping an avoidant close requires constant reassurance, patience, and a soft touch, a delicate dance of making them feel secure. But what they fail to realize is that avoidants do not experience safety through emotional appeasement or comforting words alone. Safety for an avoidant is experienced through structure, strength, and the unwavering presence of someone who is grounded in themselves. When you raise your own standards and embody personal power, you create a container in which the avoidant can feel secure without feeling trapped. Avoidants are instinctively tuned to detect neediness and insecurity because it signals instability. When someone tries too hard to make them feel safe, it often has the opposite effect. The avoidant doesn't relax, they retreat. The reason is simple: emotional intensity without boundaries feels unpredictable. It demands energy, responsibility, and a level of intimacy they are not yet ready to give. In contrast, when you live with purpose and maintain high standards, you remove the unpredictability. Your stability, clarity, and self-respect become the framework in which they can safely engage. Raising your standards is not about rigidity or control, it's about integrity and self-leadership. It's saying, I will not compromise my values, my time, or my energy for anyone, and I expect mutual respect. This level of self-respect signals to an avoidant that you are not dependent on their validation or approval. It communicates that your life is full and meaningful with or without them. Paradoxically, this sense of independence creates attraction because avoidants respect strength, and are drawn to people who can hold space for themselves. Structure also matters. Avoidants thrive in an environment where expectations are clear, boundaries are honored, and emotional energy is predictable. Chaos and inconsistency push them away, but structure creates trust. When you operate from a place of clear values, intentional choices, and consistent behavior, the avoidant feels that the relationship is not a trap. They feel it is safe because it has shape and direction. Your strength becomes the anchor that allows them to lean in without fear of losing themselves. The divine principle at play is that safety is energy, not words. Words can comfort temporarily, but energy creates lasting security. By raising your standards, by embodying your power, by holding your life with purpose and clarity, you communicate on a deeper level that the relationship is a space of reliability, integrity, and respect. This energetic safety encourages the avoidant to step closer voluntarily. They are not coerced or pressured. They are drawn to the grounded strength they can trust. Ultimately, you do not keep an avoidant by softening or shrinking to make them comfortable. You keep them by standing taller, living with high standards, and creating a life that is compelling and stable. When your energy radiates integrity and self-respect, the avoidant experiences safety not through reassurance, but through the undeniable gravity of who you are. In this way, structure, strength, and high standards are not just personal principles. They are the gateway to lasting connection with someone who instinctively fears emotional entanglement. A growth-focused confrontation is one of the most misunderstood yet powerful tools when it comes to connecting with an avoidant. Most people think confrontation is inherently negative, an argument, a critique, or a fight. But in truth, the kind of confrontation that resonates with an avoidant is one rooted in respect, clarity, and purpose. It is not about pushing them away or forcing compliance. It is about inviting them to step into a higher version of themselves, to meet the relationship with integrity, and to engage on a level that aligns with both your standards and theirs. Avoidants are naturally resistant to emotional intensity when it feels chaotic or uncontrolled, but they respond to structure that challenges them to grow without threatening autonomy. Many partners make the mistake of softening every interaction, smoothing over tension, and avoiding the necessary conversations for fear of losing the avoidant. What this creates, however, is stagnation. The avoidant feels nothing compelling, nothing dynamic, nothing worth leaning into. Comfort alone, as we've discussed, maintains distance. Growth, focus, confrontation, by contrast, introduces polarity, the tension between two strong autonomous individuals without breaking trust or safety. It communicates that this connection has boundaries, standards, and expectations, and it invites the avoidant to show up in ways they respect and value. Confrontation rooted in growth is not about blame, it is about alignment. It is a declaration. This is who I am. These are my values. I expect integrity, effort, and presence in return. When framed this way, it transforms from a potential threat into an opportunity. The avoidant is not being cornered. They are being offered a path to deeper engagement, a chance to rise to meet someone whose presence is unwavering. This is crucial because avoidants are wired to respect strength. They pull away from weakness and neediness, but they are drawn to challenge that respects them while also inviting them to grow. This process also allows them to experience emotional intimacy without feeling engulfed. Growth-focused confrontation creates space where difficult emotions, boundaries, and expectations can coexist with autonomy. It shows the avoidant that connection is not about surrendering or losing oneself. It is about mutual evolution. By setting standards and addressing issues directly, but calmly and with love, you teach them that intimacy can be safe, that conflict can be constructive, and that stepping into their own accountability is a form of empowerment rather than punishment. There is a deeper principle here. Growth-focused confrontation aligns with the universal law that energy follows identity. When you confront in service of growth, you are expressing your highest self, your integrity, strength, and purpose. This energy, rather than repelling the avoidant, pulls them closer because it signals stability, leadership, and clarity. Avoidants are not inspired by passivity. They are inspired by presence, strength, and vision. By confronting them with growth in mind, you create the dynamic that transforms avoidance into engagement, distance into attraction, and hesitation into commitment. Ultimately, growth-focused confrontation is not about controlling the avoidant. It is about inviting them into a space where they can meet you as an equal, step into responsibility, and experience intimacy as a choice rather than a threat. It challenges them gently, yet firmly, to evolve, and in doing so, it strengthens the bond in a way that comfort, appeasement, or avoidance never could. This is the path to connection that is both profound and magnetic. To keep an avoidant in a relationship, you must first understand one profound truth. They do not respond to neediness or desperation. Avoidants are naturally sensitive to emotional pressure because it threatens their sense of autonomy. When someone chases them or tries to hold them too tightly, it triggers the very fear that drives them away. This is why the common advice of be patient and comforting often fails. What an avoidant truly respects and what compels them to stay is not how much you want them, but who you are when you are with them. You keep an avoidant by being someone they must rise to meet, someone whose presence commands respect, energy, and engagement. This principle begins with self-leadership. Avoidants are drawn to individuals who are complete, self-contained, and aligned with their own purpose. When you live a life defined by your own values, passions, and direction, you create an energy that the avoidant can trust. This energy signals that you are not dependent on their approval, presence, or emotional input. Paradoxically, it is this independence, not need, that creates attachment. When they see that your life is full, meaningful, and uncompromised, they feel safe enough to lean in without losing themselves or you losing yourself. Standards play a critical role in this dynamic. Avoidants are naturally wired to respect strength and integrity. When you hold yourself to high standards, you create boundaries that communicate what is acceptable and what is not. These boundaries are not walls. They are the framework that gives them space to engage safely. And avoidant may resist soft, permissive energy because it signals instability or lack of direction. By contrast, when you demonstrate that your energy, time, and love are not freely given to anyone who does not meet your standards, you create a magnetic polarity. They feel the challenge, the respect, and the invitation all at once, and it draws them closer rather than pushing them away. It is also essential to understand that avoiding the chase does not mean avoiding connection. You can be firm, autonomous, and unwavering while also being present, supportive, and loving. The difference lies in your energy. You are not clinging, you are inviting. Avoidants respond to relationships that challenge them to grow, mirror strength, and maintain a sense of purpose. When they sense that you are not chasing them, but are fully alive in your own right, you begin to step forward willingly. They are not forced, they are inspired. The universal principle at work here is that attraction flows from identity, not effort. You cannot keep an avoidant by proving your worth or by constantly reassuring them. You keep them by being someone they respect, someone whose presence elevates their own life, and someone whose energy calls forth their best self. In this dynamic, the avoidant does not feel trapped or controlled. They feel seen, understood, and challenged in the most empowering way. Ultimately, the secret is simple but profound. You don't keep an avoidant by holding tighter or softening yourself. You keep them by holding strong, living fully, and creating a life so aligned with your highest self that being with you is an opportunity they cannot resist. They stay not because you need them. They stay because you are someone they must rise to meet. It is the combination of autonomy, standards, and energetic integrity that transforms avoidance into lasting connection. Thank you for trusting me with your thoughts and time. Wishing you clarity, strength, and endless growth ahead. Goodbye for now. May your journey be bold, inspired, and full of purpose.